Edeline, thank you so much for spending this time with me. It's a real pleasure.
Evelyn, thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here today.
No problem. And I mean, when you sent this invitation for me to participate in your show, I mean, first of all, I was quite aghast. I thought, oh my Lord, I've never participated in such a thing. And then, when I understood the lineup of women literally from so many different disciplines
Hmm.
and professions and so on, it was incredible, and I just
I,
simply had to say yes.
I'm so, I remember when we received your response saying that you would be interested in participating, and we were so excited. Every woman that accepted, it was cheers all around in the studio. Obviously, we'd never organized, I don't think anyone's organized anything like this before for fashion. So it was out of our comfort zone as well,
And I think
just to reach out to these types of women and try to get all of these women in the same space at the same time for a very particular, on the schedule. So we had a particular slot. I mean, you can imagine everyone was so busy, and to fit all those people together in one room for 2 hours, it was quite a
it
task.
absolutely, well, I remember walking into the space, and I'd never been in that kind of environment before. I mean, it was absolutely buzzing with the makeup people, all of the wonderful models, sort of floating around, in their wonderful garments and so on. And then, of course, we all turned up and we
Well,
hadn't a clue what to do with ourselves. I mean, it was
well, I remember it as one of the most beautiful backstages I've ever had, because we had all these wonderful women. We had the models, but we were all women getting ready together, and it was a very particular. It was a live show, and we didn't have time to rehearse because we're a small brand, and we didn't have, the day before to rehearse or anything. We had to make it happen all in that
absolutely,
morning,
yeah.
and it was so nice. Like, all the women were rehearsing their parts, and we had a very strict 3 minutes per woman,
Mm.
which must have been quite challenging as well. Um, and then you had to walk in the dark to get
Yes,
to
I
your
remember.
spot.
I think that was the scariest thing, that and trying to keep what we're due to say within the 3 minute
Yeah, well,
period, actually.
we
It's
were
just,
so, on the production side, we were so frightened because we were like, we're going to be turning the lights down on Dame Evelyn Glennie,
so I
and
want,
then,
I want to
and how
know,
about if she's not finished speaking,
well, I want to know what would have happened if we had gone over.
it was such a strict, on the production side, there's we were having guests entering and exiting, and normally in a fashion show, this type of show, you'll have the editors and the buyers come and leave. Many of them are very busy during fashion week, so they'll come for a few minutes and then leave.
Mm,
But of course, this show was so uh, engaging that no one would leave, and
yeah,
the audience was refusing to leave. So at
interesting.
one point, the British Fashion Council said, "Well, we'll have to turn the lights on and then tell some people to leave so that Vogue can come in."
It's
And I was like, "We can't
incredible.
turn the lights on and off on these women."
Yeah. It's absolutely fascinating. But I mean, I know that you were inspired by Mary Beard's Women of Power. But I mean, what inspired you initially to change the feel of the catwalk, to change the feel of a fashion
Mhm.
show?
It's a process I've been experimenting since the beginning of my career. So I love the idea of the intimacy of a show, and uh, uh, the the interaction between the audience and what's happening in the show. So all of my shows are pretty experimental. It's you know I like the idea of one-to-one theater when you're actually led through an experience. It's probably similar to how you might organize a concert or a musical performance.
Hmm.
So it's something I've been experimenting with from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I find fascinating was that, we're used. we're used to having music as part of a catwalk show, a fashion
Mhm.
show, and that is often, in a way, the first thing that hits our senses. It's the oral aspect, and
Yes, yes.
then it's the visuals of the
Uh-huh.
designs and so on. And I think what was fascinating for me was that we saw a real situation, real people in
Uh-huh.
real circumstances wearing garments that you could absolutely see them walking out of that
Yes.
building with, and carrying on wearing and feeling good in them and so on. And that's what was so interesting. So it wasn't just only based on this amazing model, who has the perfect legs
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
that you really felt the chemistry with the person who was wearing the clothes.
Yes, I very much, you've mentioned so many things in that comment, actually. I very much am designing for real women, this type of
Mm.
woman, your type of woman. These are the women who are wearing my clothes. So that's one aspect where I wanted to connect that inside this show, connect those dots. It just seems odd that I'm dressing women who are speaking publicly all the time, and yet I'm showing on young girls who are just walking around silently,
Mm.
being looked at rather than heard. And so this was a way to kind of break that barrier,
Mm.
and say this is what actually this is what I believe in. This is what who my clothes are for,
Yeah.
um, and yes, with regards to fashion shows, it is such a sensual experience in a way. You have the sound, you have the space, you have the intimidating PRs at the front door, and you have these important people that only have 5 minutes to see it,
Yeah.
and you're creating a sensory experience. And ideally, you want to create a sense of excitement and this feeling that they want to see more in that very
Mm.
short time. It has to all be perfect. So to try to do that with real people who aren't used to
Absolutely.
that
Yes.
context
I think that's so
was a
true.
challenge.
It was a brilliant day, very, very eye-opening, I have to say. And what a great team as well. It was a lovely
Yes,
feel to the whole day, actually.
yes. We
And
have a wonderful team that we've worked together since the beginning on show after show. And I'm really lucky to have built that team and that we've kind of come together that way. So
yeah,
all of the shows are repeatedly the same people working on them.
absolutely. And I mean, when
Yeah.
you were a young designer, I mean, first of all, I suppose I should ask, what led you into fashion design? Was this something that you had wanted
Uh-huh.
to do as a little girl, or has it run in your
Yeah.
family, or?
Not at all in my family, but um, funnily that we're speaking about this, I always say I remember a memory of when I was a little girl and I matched my socks to my t-shirt that day.
Well,
And everyone commented on it. People noticed. Um,
mm,
and I remember discovering that there's a sense of power in fashion. I think that was my first hook. There's a
interesting.
way that you could actually influence how people see you or how you are seen. And I think that was maybe my first hook into the industry.